The newly elected Speaker of the House is Representative Mike Johnson of Louisiana. Mr. Johnson is in his fourth term in the House, so that makes him relatively inexperienced as far as speakers are concerned. So, for example, Nancy Pelosi had served in the House for 20 years before she became Speaker. Kevin McCarthy and Paul Ryan had each served in the House for 16 years, I believe. And so he hasn't been around for very long before assuming this most powerful position in the Congress's lower chamber. Prior to entering politics, Mr. Johnson was an attorney who worked for a variety of Christian legal organizations. I think within Congress, during his tenure in Congress, he's been best known for his efforts to provide a legalistic rationale for opposing the certification of the presidential election results in 2020. Basically, what Mr. Johnson argued was that the election law changes that a lot of states made during the pandemic in 2020 were unconstitutional, and therefore the entire presidential election was illegitimate, and many Republicans in the House signed on to that point of view. The vacancy occurred because in the wake of the previous Speaker, Kevin McCarthy's decision to pass a continuing resolution to fund the government, a small number of House Republicans were very upset with him, and Representative Matt Gaetz of Florida filed a motion to vacate the Speaker's chair. That motion was a result of the fact that in January, Mr. McCarthy cut a deal with the ultra-conservative House Republicans who opposed him at that point to allow any member of the House at any point to introduce a motion declaring the speakership vacant, and then to require such a motion to be voted on by the entire House body. And so Mr. Gaetz filed the motion, the House voted on it, and 8 Republicans joined with all Democrats to oust McCarthy from the speakership. After that happened, the Republicans in the House, as the majority party, had to find a new candidate for Speaker. And they went through a lot of options. First, they turned to Representative Steve Scalise, the House Majority Leader. He couldn't cobble enough support. Then they went to Representative Jim Jordan, the very conservative chair of the House Freedom Caucus. He couldn't cobble together enough support. Then they turned to Tom Emmer, the House Majority Whip. He also couldn't cobble together enough support. Finally, they turned to Mr. Johnson, and by that point, I think virtually all Republicans in the House were tired of the pandemonium. They were upset about the embarrassment that it was causing them, and so they rallied behind him, and he won. Well, based on what he said in interviews thus far, it sounds like he really wants to focus on border security, increasing funding for the nation's southern border with Mexico. And he really wants to focus on supporting Israel in its war with Hamas right now. Surprisingly, the interviews that I've seen suggest that he doesn't really want to focus on social issues, in spite of the fact that it's well known that he feels very strongly on issues like abortion and gay marriage and so forth. But what he said, for example, on the issue of abortion, even though he's staunchly pro-life, is that he doesn't want to push through a federal abortion ban. He wants that issue left to the states. He's going to have a lot of challenges. First of all, there is yet another deadline to fund the government coming up in just a few weeks, November 17th, I believe. He and many other Republicans in the House want to make major cuts to domestic discretionary spending to balance out the increased funding for our foreign allies, Israel, Ukraine, and so forth. President Biden and the Democrats are not going to agree to across-the-board cuts in domestic discretionary spending. Down the road, he's going to have to decide what to do about the impeachment inquiry that Republicans opened up when McCarthy was Speaker. Clearly, there are Republicans in the House who are going to want a vote on the House floor about whether to impeach President Biden, but that's a big political hot potato. And just as a general matter, keeping this very narrow House majority together this very narrow Republican House majority together is going to be a real challenge, because as we've seen over the past year, there are a wide variety of views within this caucus, and there are a wide variety of differences in terms of tactics. I think for Rhode Island it doesn't mean very much, because our congressional delegation is all Democratic, there's an open House seat in the 1st Congressional District right now, but all signs point to Gabe Amo being elected. Once he's elected, he will be the Democrat, he will be the member of the House with the least seniority, as the least senior member of the minority party, right? And of course, Representative Magaziner, the other member of our delegation in the House of Representatives, he's also a Democrat. So from their perspective, I don't think this, or from Rhode Island's perspective, I don't think this drama and the ascension of Mr. Johnson makes much of a difference. That's an excellent question, and time will tell. You know, this really was an unprecedented situation, right? We haven't had a House vote declaring the speakership vacant in this way since 1910, I believe, right? So this hasn't happened in 123 years. Usually after there are battles over the speakership like this, things die down for a period of time, because members of the House kind of are aware that the chaos and pandemonium in their chamber caused their chamber a lot of embarrassment. The majority party wants to present an image of being responsible and competent. And so, you know, based on what history has shown, I would expect that at least for a period of time, there will be some calm in the House. But you never know. This is a very fractious majority, and we could be entering a period of constant tumult in terms of House leadership, which we really haven't seen in American history, certainly not in modern American history.